This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. My question today is Becky Hammond on the move? We know Tyler Marsh in Chicago, and looks like general manager's gone. Is Becky Hammond on the move? Let's talk about it and let's look at what options that Money Mike sees available that Becky Hammond can step into. Becky Hammond is a special coach. I really like Becky Hammond a lot. Becky Hammond, as we all know, came out of the NBA. Coached with the San Antonio Spurs. Also went and coached in the G League. So she gets concepts, and she also can break down the game better than anyone, right? But today's a different type of day because the Raiders, Mark Davis, is walking around firing people today. Antonio Pierce, the head coach of the Raiders, was fired. And if you notice, there's been a lot of changes that have happened with the NBA Aces, right? They're moving in a different direction. So people are getting jobs branching out. This takes me back to Becky Hammond, right? Because Becky Hammond was touched by something. And where am I going with this? So let me get there in a hurry. How about Becky Hammond going up to the Connecticut Sun, right? So let's look, and the way it works in the WNBA, as everybody has shared, I mean, really, you can do a lot of movement. I kind of looked around; a lot of players have played for a majority of the teams, and I was looking at the Connecticut Sun. Obviously, had a lot of things going last year, but they have Becky Hammond go up there. And let me tell you how I'm going to take that a step further because I think you got something with Teresa Witherspoon with the Chicago Sky. That didn't work out, right? Didn't work out, didn't go well, okay? And I would really, and her and Becky Hammond have a good relationship. And sometimes with Witherspoon, you need veteran players, right? So you got a lot of veteran players up there at Connecticut Sun, right? So Becky could tweak that, do something with it. And I'll tell you who else's bags is packed. Christy Sides' bags are packed too. So with Becky Hammond, and Becky's a different individual, right? I mean, she was really touched on the Witherspoon, but it makes sense because either if you're not going to take the Connecticut job, I think you got two great assistants can go down there and work with Becky Hammond in Las Vegas, right? Because that's something that has to happen. And for Becky Hammond, it really, back to back champ, she's done a lot. I truly believe Becky Hammond belongs back in the NBA. I think she's come into the WNBA. I think she's actually done more to show what capabilities of women coaching and how it could be done. She gets the game, right? So at the end of the day, I look at it as okay, you can do rights and you can do wrongs in the WNBA. And folks, please understand this is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. We reviewed, watched over 100 games last year. I mean, I was glued to the tube, got to know who the players were, who the coaches were. Spent a little extra time with the Indiana Fever, understanding the relationship with Caitlin Clark. However, I saw the Aces go through what you call a we've been at the peak and we went down to the valley. Now with the Becky's coaching style, I mean you got about a 3 to 5 year window. And at that, I mean either they're gonna get tuned out or Becky's gonna get tuned out. But Becky loves winning championships. She loves challenges, right? I mean, and you gotta accept it because why? Because Becky Hammond has done it, right? So you can't really question who is Becky Hammond, but you can also walk that in to Witherspoon, right? Because Witherspoon has done it too, right? Didn't work for the Sky. Okay. So you got to put that in perspective of how do we look at it or how do we fix it? Because at the end of the day, when you get coaches get in there and you get the Christy Sides, right? Now, and I'll move it in there because Christy Sides really got the bad end of the stick. There's no doubt about it. Christy Sides got the bad end of the stick. I mean, it didn't have to go that way. That could have went a different way for Christy Sides, but I mean, you got in there, you took the job, and it took a lot of pressure, right? But at the end of the day, equity is something I'm searching for, and I'm asking you. I know Indiana thinks Christy Sides is a horrible coach, but overall, I mean, if you put Christy Sides with Becky Hammond, and you get her an opportunity. also Witherspoon. They can that's a good team of coaches, right? Because either you got two veteran good assistants and you got Becky Hammond. So you got everything's gonna fall in leadership because at the end of the day, you've got two coaches, Witherspoon and Christy Sides, that coach for a matter of a time of 3 years. Okay, and this one here, it just kind of happened. So at the end of the day, I mean, you can't go back, right? Okay, because Indiana wanted Stephanie White, so that was the deal there. But that cost Christy Sides a job. I personally, with the from 216 to get into the playoffs, I thought Christy Sides that's coach of the year, right? And of course, I went far fetched. I thought Caitlin Clark was MVP, but that's not the story, right? They've got White. They kicked out Christy Sides, right? Becky Hammond, you just lost one of your assistants. Christy Sides is a teacher, and I'm telling you, there's value in what she has to say. I think she'd be better in college, but with the relationship that Becky Hammond has, Witherspoon, because I mean, you got to look at it. They've been in the game. Becky Hammond, I mean, she reminds me a lot of Don, right? Because they don't play any punches, right? They just don't play punches. If you don't do it well, they'll call you out in the press conference, right? Well, like Don Staley, you can't pull any punches. Don Staley literally gets up and works out every day. So there's no excuse. And how does South Carolina beat you? If you want to know why they're beating you in strength and conditioning, right? Because they got a coach that gets up every morning, 5 a.m., and does the same workout she did in college, right? That's a rarity, right? But that's a leadership quality that just is going to continue, right? Till she gets to the WNBA. But as far as Becky Hammond, been up there with the San Antonio Spurs, right? So you got Greg Popovich. You're not going to get any better of mine, right? But she doesn't stop there. She's also in communication with Coach K, right? Legendary Duke, right? I mean, Coach K is at the game. And to them, it's a fascination of the game, of how the science of the game and what you can do with individuals and how you can move them around. So Becky's kind of said, look, here's the deal. I've done it. I can do it anywhere, right? So when you start going up there with the Spurs, you win. You go over to the G League and you win the G League, right? So let's not stop there. You come over to the WNBA, you win the WNBA back to back, right? So where do we start and where do we begin? It really says sprinkle that around the league, right? So Connecticut Sun, you don't have a coach. They may have a lot of this, they may have somebody in mind. But Becky can take any one of those five opening jobs and turn around and win a championship. Okay. And if anybody wants to dispute that, or if he's telling me that because if you want to know the reality of it, that could happen, right? Because Becky is a very interesting coach. She is very knowledgeable. The players respect her, so nobody's going to be questioning what her authority is. And, at the end of the day, she's just going to put it out there. But she's been a legendary figure, okay, to go to the NBA, to go in there and coach the G League. Now, I'm telling you, you guys might not really agree with me, which it's only my opinion, but if it turns the truth, I'm giving you the facts. If Becky Hammond goes somewhere else, she will win a championship, right? But the deck is getting so stacked up in the WNBA, and this is where I talk about Witherspoon, right? Because the desperation of moment, it's not a plan, it's a win now, right? Everybody wants to win right now. There's no way that Christy Sides could avoid it getting fired, right? Because the Indiana Fever, the minute you bring the president in, you make a change, you want to win right now, right? So that's where that is. And with Caitlin, they're saying, look, you can't do it. And I'm gonna tell you this. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if you're Becky Hammond, right? You're gonna have a hard time coaching Caitlin Clark because Caitlin Clark is very, very intelligent, knows the game, and she just pushes the pencil. Now, is that a problem for some coaches? No, it's not, right? Because if when you're like Phil Jackson or you understand the how the clock ticks with those players, you realize that you can do things differently, and it doesn't have to be the agenda of basketball, right? But Christy Sides would never get that opportunity, right? And then you go to Stephanie White, she gets 3 years minimum, may drop down to two if it doesn't happen the way they think it's going to happen because they're thinking the championship, right? So you got the Chicago Sky thinking the championship. So everybody's making a move. And then you got Becky Hammond, like I told you. Mark Davis is firing people, right? You got to understand when the NFL owner is walking around the building and he wants everybody gone, he's going to start picking people out. You gone, you gone, you gone. These guys in the NFL don't wait, right? So there's a shakeup in Las Vegas. There's a serious shakeup. Where's it going to start? Where's it going to end? That's to be determined, right? But I'll tell you this, and beyond all the charades, right? Let's get past all that. Let's go what's going to happen next in the WNBA, right? The Connecticut Sun got a pretty good roster. Okay, they got a pretty good roster over there. So you got to ask yourself, where is Becky Hammond going to go? Or what assistants, because she's got two good ones, right? Chrissy Sides and you got Witherspoon. There's no doubt. And you got Becky Hammond. And Becky Hammond's just Becky Hammond, right? I don't care how you look at it. I don't care how you twist it. You can take it to the left, take it to the right. I mean, she can coach any team, right? And then let's put it in this perspective. And you may disagree with me. You may disagree with me. This is the way it works. It's the off season. I tell you what I think. You tell me what you think, and together we just review it right on down the line, right? But you got a situation here where Becky Hammond could go coach the Minnesota Lynx and win the championship, right? I would say if I wanted to make a bet, who's better, Becky Hammond or Cheryl, I'd say that if you gave her the roster, right? It's not a question of who do you have, it's who do you has the roster. So that's why I know the Chicago Sky are going to bounce back. They just hit a jackpot, the Chicago Sky, and I'll cover that with you. But I think Becky Hammond may be on the move, right? And it's just going to depend how it all shakes out. But they're tearing down the organization. Mark Davis has just fired the Raiders coach, Antonio Pierce. So that tells you there's some quiet walking around the Las Vegas building. And I think Becky Hammond might be on the move. This is the Money Mike City Kitty Radio podcast. We're powered up by Fanatics. We tell you each and every day, make it better than the last one. And all things are possible to those who believe. We'll see you soon.